For me, selling is about helping customers to make informed buying decisions by exploring and targeting win-win outcomes. Now, the win-win element is really important. You're targeting an outcome which is obviously not only good for the customer, but it's got to be good for you too, and the customer's going to understand that. But in that explanation, there's some other really important terms. Explore and target. There needs to be an element of exploration in that conversation. Even if you've got a good idea of where you'd like that conversation to go and the outcome that you think would be good for both of you, exploring it makes sure that your assumption is correct. Also, it makes the customer feel that they're part of that. So that's a principle. Explore and target a win-win outcome.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes.
And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Steve Radford. Steve is the author of How to Sell. So Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
And tell me, what's the book about?
So,
I know, it's pathetic. Is that the worst question you're ever going to get, do you think?
well, okay, there's a lot you can cover in a sales book, right? So this one is, the tagline is everything you need to think, know, and do to have greater sales conversations. Essentially, it's the book I wish I had when I started selling 25 odd years ago. Since then, I've learned a lot, still learning. I've written a lot of big programs, apprenticeship programs, diploma programs, in-company programs. And this was the book that I challenged myself to condense it down. So if you had to get everything people needed into a smaller volume as possible, so 50,000 words was my limit, I gave myself, what would I do? And that's what the book is.
Tough weight, isn't it? Because I'm not sure who responded this, but it was why did you write me such a long letter? Didn't have time to write you a short one. That'd be easier to write a 250,000 word book.
Oh, completely. Yeah. It's editing down, deciding what to take out, looking at how you get your point across well but succinctly is tricky. But it's what you need to do. People have got less time than ever. And I always believe if you can't explain something simply, you don't know it well enough. So yeah, it was a useful process.
Do you feel as though you know stuff better now as a result of doing this than you did when you started on the journey?
Undoubtedly. You, by thinking about how to explain it in the best possible way, it refines your thinking, and also how if everything connects together, because although it is a sales book, it needs to flow, it needs to feel story-like in its flow. So again, it helps you to make sure you've got those connections right between all the subjects you want to cover.
Was it a little bit meta then, in that you're going, by thinking about this, it's making me better at the thinking that I'm talking about in the book itself? And that's kind of what I'm telling people to do. I'm still doing it. Yeah.
I mean, to a degree, yeah. I mean, as I said before, I've written a lot of programs, some of which were quite academic. So the Sales Executive Apprenticeship program I developed and the diploma program, they're designed to a framework. There's a lot of written material. So, but yeah, it's whenever you sit down to put something into a new format, I think carefully thinking it through, it's for a start, it's a great refresher. But yeah, it always helps to refine your thinking, yeah.
We'll go back to that in a second. When he says a great refresher, did you kind of think about some stuff that you're going to advise people to do and go, you know what? I reckon I might have come off the gas a bit myself on that.
Oh,
and the base gets a fundamental and you're like, oh dear.
all the time. So two examples. One, I went back to some of the material I'd written before that's not part of my core training, read some stuff. I thought, oh, that's good. I thought, oh no, yeah, I wrote that. So there's a bit of that.
I should do that.
Yeah. But you're always learning. You're always going back to refresh things that you know, but perhaps the habit slipped a little bit. I sent a message to somebody on LinkedIn the other day and almost caught myself clicking send on what was essentially a pitch slap. It's like, no, back off a little bit. So there's always things that you need to go back and refresh.
We do this, I do this. God, what am I saying? Yeah, no, it happens, doesn't it? And so going into some of the content, let's kind of look into that. You talked about the book is about thinking. So do you think we're losing thinking because we're kind of automating stuff? We got all these aids and things that we don't have to think and be so clear ourselves, but actually that is going to impact our conversations ultimately.
I think the best salespeople actually are probably thinking more. And ironically, I think tools like AI are probably helping them, because when you challenge AI to either feed back on something or to provide some content, the best salespeople then critique it and go through that process. And if it's improved something there, you start to question, why is that better than the way I'd put it? Why do I like that better? Or if you don't like its output, why don't I like that? What's wrong about that? So I think actually for the best salespeople, there's probably spending a little more time thinking and hopefully producing, better quality conversations as a result.
So they're using AI, and I was chatting to somebody on the podcast about this a couple of weeks ago. They're using AI as a thinking partner,
Yep.
rather than a little slave to do some work and go off and do this stuff. So they're using it as a thinking tool, essentially.
There's elements of both. I mean, you can use it, you can use it to do the jobs which are just easy and repetitive. Research tasks are a great one. Go find me this information on this prospect or customer, those kind of tasks. So there is that element of use it to do a job. I mean, I built some custom GPTs. I've got a GPT that's now my ideal client that I bounce stuff around with, just to make sure I'm not missing an angle, just to test my thinking. So I think you can use it in both ways.
Have you got you as well? Is there a Steve AI?
There is a Steve AI, but only I don't open that up to other people. I use it to help refine my thinking, and typically it helps me to reduce stuff down. Yeah, if I've got long form content I need to turn into a shorter post, it helps me for that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're asking it and it's accessing all your stuff, but your you is private.
Yes.
What a weird question that we wouldn't have been doing a few years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, we'd have been like, what are you talking about, Fred? Yeah.
You got to do lots of play. You know exactly what I meant. And then you've got the ideal client. So you're testing stuff against that, see how it might respond, what pains, what pressures, what prizes, deeper understanding.
Completely. And I'm in the process of developing a few more so that people can use it once they understand the principles and processes I train. They can use the custom GPTs to help put those principles and things into action. So the one I'm developing currently, I'm working on this week, is about helping you to generate a mental question bank that's client or sector specific. So not questions to definitely ask, but questions that are phrased in a way that you would naturally ask them. So you've got things lodged up here so that you can focus on the conversation, knowing you've got some killer questions to go back to should you need to.
Yeah. So this isn't about the kind of the heads up display type thing that we're reading about.
Nope.
It's right at your desk. This is the stuff I could ask. Actually, I got on a pad in front of me and I'm going it because a lot of your stuff is face to face anyway. A lot of people you work with are face to face, isn't it?
Yeah, live in person. Yeah. So whether it be face to face over mediums like this, whether it's face to face in person,
In person.
yeah, phone work too, to a degree. But yeah, I think the live conversation is the portion that you should not have AI involved.
Because why is that? I have an idea on that. So why do you not want the AI in as your heads up display, co-pilot, giving you prompters and all that sort of stuff? What problems that cause?
Even if the prospect doesn't spot what's going on, unless you are very, very practiced at it, they're going to sense something's not quite right. And if they sense there's an element of that conversation that doesn't feel genuine and authentic, you're going to lose that element of trust, and it can be as simple as, where your eye movement is. If I'm busy looking over here, you're like, what's going on?
Am I boring you?
Yeah. But, I've got a very good friend who now trains people to communicate effectively, both in person and over screen and what have you. He worked in the TV industry, and he tells you that, to be able to talk effectively when you've got someone in your ear is a real skill that takes a lot of practice. And this is a similar thing. I think my opinion is you should have a skill set that allows you to empathize and connect to the person in front of you in the live use AI all around those different elements of the live conversation, but not in the live portion itself.
Yeah, get yourself so well prepped. You've done such a depth of thinking. You understand that stuff. You've got some questions logged. You might have some written down.
You completely so. Yeah,
You're there in the moment, and it's plans are nothing, planning is everything, isn't it? That actually that conversation has gone there. Well, I can take it there. I'm comfortable if I'll go with it, like I would if we were in the pub and I wasn't all plugged in and but yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you. And there's many on this side of sure, but hey, cool.
and there's the old comedian's trick. So if you notice that live comedians on stage, they'll often have a stool or something with a glass of water on, or a glass of water on the floor. If you look carefully, there's often a piece of paper, and what they'll do is they'll take a sip, and what they're actually doing is glancing at their notes. And you can do the same thing in a meeting, but no one minds you referring to your notes in a meeting. It's
Even if she said to me, hang on a sec, let me check some of my prep, I'm not going to think you're a bad person for that. Actually, I think you're going to go up a nice estimation. Oh, you've done some prep for this meeting. Fair enough. Cool. Check it.
Yeah, exactly that. But you're refreshing things you kind of already know, whereas an AI is going to start interjecting things that might throw you off. And like I said, as soon as that trust is lost, as soon as you start to think something's off here, whether they recognize it or not, it's going to affect your ability to close that sale.
Yeah. And then that could be unconscious as much as conscious. Person you're talking to, there's something's off, and then you kind of I don't know what's going on there. Okay, so you mentioned principles and processes. Talk me through a couple of the principles that you work to there. I always find this stuff fascinating.
Okay, so I'll give you a principle, give you a process. So the book is everything you need to think, know, and do, and the think bit, there are some key principles in there. The most important of which, unsurprisingly, is the first chapter of the book, and that's about what selling actually is. So for me, selling is about helping customers to make informed buying decisions by exploring and targeting win-win outcomes. Now, the win-win element is really important. You're targeting an outcome which is obviously not only good for the customer, but it's got to be good for you too, and the customer's going to understand that. But in that explanation, there's some other really important terms. Explore and target. There needs to be an element of exploration in that conversation. Even if you've got a good idea of where you'd like that conversation to go and the outcome that you think would be good for both of you, exploring it makes sure that your assumption is correct. Also, it makes the customer feel that they're part of that. So that's a principle. Explore and target a win-win outcome. In terms of a process, I say the book is everything you need to think, know, and do. The do bit, that's the part 3 of the book, which is actually half of the book. That's my 7-step sale. So that is a 7-step conversational process to guide you through a conversation, not in the way that sellers like to sell, but in the way that customers like to buy. So there's a process there too.
Okay. Not in the way that sellers like to sell. All that good, tricky, sneaky beaky stuff. But people still love it.
Yeah.
It's on my nerves.
Yes, totally. I know your stance on ethical selling, Fred, and I think you would agree with.
Oh, we're such on the same page here. So can we go through those 7 steps then? Let's align ourselves to the way in, customers. Yeah. No, take it. Yeah.
The 7 core steps, the first one is planning and preparation. So obvious place to start.
Yeah.
Step 2 is engage. So that step is just about opening a conversation. And then step 3, which is the step that even experienced salespeople often miss, is I call it understanding. I don't use the word discovery, but understand about that customer's values, wants, and needs, both from an organisational level and from the individual in front of you, before you move to step 4, which is propose and present your solution. So propose what you'd like the customer to do next. So that's your recommendation, and present your justification around that. Step 5 is a trial close. So this is an open question like, how does that sound? And it's a pivot point. Ideally, it takes you to step 6. You see some clear buying signals, and step 6 is then close. And step 7 is follow up, and that closes the loop, because a good follow up helps you plan and prepare more effectively next time round. 2 steps that sit off the main line. Trial close can take you to either handle and overcome objections or to negotiation. So yeah, but the core 7 steps are prepare, engage, understand, propose, Trial, close, follow up.
Love it. Nothing I would add or subtract. You can't. That is classic. I like the just the phraseology where you said understanding, and you deliberately said, "I'm not calling it discovery."
Yes.
Why was that?
Okay, so I don't use the word discovery for two reasons. One, discovery to me brings up almost like a tick box. I need to discover this information, that information, that information. And you need to go deeper than that. But the other reason is people talk about discovery calls, and there's nothing wrong, especially with enterprise level sales, in having a discovery call. But that discovery call is a sales conversation in its own right. Because as a result of that, you are going to propose and present what you believe the next step should be. So even in a discovery call, those 7 steps still apply. So it's also to separate understanding from the discovery call, itself.
Yeah, that's funny. I've got that similar sort of. It's almost not logical. Why I don't particularly like the word, but yeah, I think that's what you said there. It feels a little bit checkbox, and I want to get to the demo anyway because that's more interesting in it.
Yeah, completely.
I'm not really, but yeah, okay. Um, that's cool. So understanding customers, and again, you were very deliberate about talking from an organization and a personal point of view.
Yes. Because even if you're selling, virtually all the sales teams I work with are B2B. And even if you're selling to a professional buyer, so a procurement team, who are trained to separate themselves from the process, they always have a sway. They always have their opinion, or, their internal customer will have an opinion on who they would like to work with. And it's based on their needs. So one of the best things that I recommend salespeople do when you're dealing with a B2B buyer, especially in a larger organization, ask them about what makes the purchase successful for them as an individual. If you can find out what their KPIs are and try and understand how what you're selling can help them make them successful in their role, not just a successful purchase or as an organization, yeah, you're ticking both boxes then.
Mm. Is that question or that questioning one that you find people find a bit harder than perhaps some of the other stuff?
Yes, I do. I think because it can feel a little bit more personal and potentially a little bit more intrusive. And often what you're doing is you're doing it by reading between the lines rather than necessarily asking direct questions. There are some questions you've got to earn the right to ask. Starting a new conversation with a brand new prospect, asking about their KPIs is probably not the best place to start. But you can ask questions that draw that out as part of the broader conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if it's KPIs, if it is business stuff, you could go in saying, I've been doing some research. I work with a lot of people like yourselves. It seems to be that these are the things that you guys get measured on.
Yeah, 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 completely. If you can
As
suggest
an
stuff
almost
in,
earning the right by saying, hey, look, I've done my homework here. Bang, bang,
yeah,
bang.
completely. Yeah,
Yeah, it is totally. Well, oh, no, we're not. Oh, what are you? Right, off we go into that.
yeah,
What's your personal ambitions? Hang on a minute, we only just met.
yes, yeah, completely. Yeah, yeah.
But
I mean,
later
drink
on,
first, right? Yeah.
yeah, who are you? Okay, cool. So we've got the principles, win-win.
Yes. One
I
of the
talk
six.
win-win.
Yeah.
I talk win-win-win now, actually.
Yeah. I tell me your approach. I do too, but tell me your win-win-win, and I'll bet it's similar.
Well, it's what you said. So
Okay.
it's the customer has to win,
Yeah.
your company has to win, but your own conscience has to win.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and know that what you said and did, you are happy with, that it was decent, honest, it was kind of the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So you're not, there's an ethical angle on it. That's why I just
there
said
is,
that.
yeah, totally. And my test on that is anything I train, I should be happy to show their customer too. So any technique a salesperson uses, you should be able to be open and honest with your customer if they want to know, why it is that you're doing things a particular way. I think that in some cases there's even a fourth win, because
Yeah, that's okay. Well, better than me, Steve.
oh,
Bloody
well,
hell.
yeah. I mean, I work with some of the sales teams I work with are wholesalers. And so actually it's good for them, it's good for their customer. Then there's the consumer. It's essentially you just got to find a, you know, essentially this is just about not being selfish, isn't it? It's about balancing that courage to lead the conversation. You've got to have that courage with consideration for the customer's needs and potentially their customers' needs too.
I'll give you that. Yeah. If you work a lot in drinks, you have worked a lot in drink
I
trade, haven't
have,
you? So
yeah,
the customer has to be in our conversation, doesn't it? Because otherwise,
yeah.
what are we there for? Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So where are we? Where are we? We've got 7 steps. We've talked about the principles behind it. Is there anything in the book that you think people would find surprising? That they'll read it and go, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." And of course, I'm asking you to answer a bunch of people that can find just what you've said already quite surprising. What? Focus on customers? Huh? How
Yeah.
weird. That
Okay.
already might be a shock. Oh, okay, probably not your ideal reader. Or no, maybe they are the ideal reader. But is there anything in there that you think this might
The-
rattle a few
uh,
cages or
on the
might
face of it,
offend you?
yes. But one of the things I think one of the ways you know when you've got something right is that when you train people on it and they go, yeah, that sounds like common sense. Ah, okay, right. We've got that right. But on the face of it, the fact that part one of the book, which is about mindsets, is a quarter of the book, very few sales trainers start with mindsets. And actually, for some people, that is a bit surprising. Why aren't we straight into process and what to do and how to do it? Why is the a quarter of the book there on how to think? And when you explain it, well, your mindsets are the things that underpin your knowledge and skills, which lead to your behaviors. And when you're not consciously concentrating, your mindsets become they're those deeply ingrained ways of thinking. They're your behavioral nudges. So if you can shape those, even when you're feeling particularly relaxed with a customer or you're feeling in a particularly stressful situation, you'll tend to act in broadly the right way if you've got the right mindsets underpinning those. So for me, it is the best place to start, but for some people, that feels a bit odd.
I'd find it really odd not to do that. But that's again, we're on the same page with that. It is your foundational stuff.
Yeah, it's a
The
complete.
key for me
Yeah.
is think like a partner. That's going to change the way in which you behave and go about stuff. Yeah,
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
also putting those elements in. Why do you think some people miss that then and want to skip straight into process?
I
I
think
have
from
a
an
theory. I'll
individual's
share mine. I'll share
oh,
mine if you share yours. No, you go
yeah.
first.
Okay. I think there's two reasons. One is if you're the salesperson that's motivated to engage with training because you want to improve, you want to know what can I do now? What can I do differently? You're keen to get to the action. And so spending a day, perhaps potentially thinking about mindsets doesn't feel like it's going to move the needle. And then also from a sales leader's perspective, again, some sales leaders, because we all do this, right? You want that fix. I want the thing that fixes, that makes them do X or stops them doing Y. And again, I think from a mindset's perspective, people think we're investing in something there that they're not necessarily clear on where the return is going to come from. So I think it's about breaking that barrier because as soon as you explain why I like to start with mindsets, which is what we've just covered, people then get it. Okay, actually, it's probably the most powerful training you can do from an ROI perspective. If I've got a day with people and only a day with people, let's start with mindsets. I can do more good there than anywhere else typically until I know a team.
Yeah, yeah, similar. I mean, my again, there's 2 answers. I can go with 3 to try and beat you, but that's 2. Um, Again, they don't appreciate how important it is and the impact it has, which is what pretty much you said. And I just some people don't know how to do it. They
Yep.
don't know how to approach that. Probably because they don't appreciate it, they never thought about it, they don't know how to impact it, don't know how to train it, don't know how to help people to think differently. They
And
can
it's
only train tactic, they can only train
yeah,
doing. Yeah.
and it's because it's difficult to articulate, isn't it? It's getting people to how explaining how you should think those fundamental principles.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have that instinctive feeling for what's right and wrong, but being able to articulate it in a way that people can then apply it to a wide range of situations is difficult. Yeah.
Because that sentence that you gave for the thing you were very explicit about. You went back over it. You underlined it. How long do you think it took you to kind of get that refined?
Oh, my definition of what selling is, that one.
Yeah, yeah, that
Oh,
bit.
probably 10 years.
Right. Okay.
Um, and it came because, like a lot of salespeople, when I first started, before I became a salesperson, really, I used to hate sales. It's because I didn't understand what selling really is, which really, if you boil it down even simpler than that, it's about helping people, right? And as soon as you get that and building, but to build it out into a definition which is practically useful, help
Yeah.
people to make informed buying decisions, make sure there's passage of information. It's a decision. There has to be a decision at the end of it. They need to buy or buy into what you're selling by exploring and targeting an outcome, which is a win-win. Getting that right in a succinct sentence, yeah, took quite a long time.
I mean, in another 10 years, you'll have nailed it.
Well, yeah, completely.
Sorry, that's cheap. No, but no, interestingly, well, we'll hopefully both be retired by then. But let's go back and you'll say, actually, Fred, I haven't changed it, but I've got 14 different ways to say it in a slightly different angle that I can use as a maxim, a fast thing, or whatever, which
Mm,
is still basically the same thing. That's what I found.
yeah,
In that, yeah, I got my definition, but I can actually just say things in a slightly different way, which is still pointing back to that.
yes,
And
completely that. And it's that, if you've got it right, when you find that everything that you do,
yeah,
train and recommend is compatible with that statement. And
yeah,
that's why it sometimes takes a while because you find those exceptions and you go, ooh, okay, if we're going to position this as a fundamental principle, it has to stand the test of you never
yeah,
break it.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's really cool. Yeah, but it doesn't fit with that.
Yeah,
Okay, I can't go down that route then.
yeah,
Don't want to go down that route.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Oh wow, such good stuff. So now then, I'm going to ask you a question, which you're going to say first. That is like the second worst question. No,
Go
I've got
on.
a book on conversational selling, Fred. Have a copy. And it's not the what keeps you awake at night. That is the worst question.
Yeah.
The one that, again, you'll have an opinion on is what should I have asked you? What have I missed?
Okay.
I don't know. Is that a good question? Or is that a shocker?
Okay. The question I found most difficult to answer when I was writing the book is what have you left out? What should you leave out?
Yeah.
What is useful stuff that's not in the book?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot. I've got 50,000 words in the audio book, which I've just finished recording, is 6.5 hours. You've got a really limited amount of time. So yeah, the question you should ask is what have I left out?
And so, what have I left out in asking you in this interview? What should I have asked that is worth sharing so people are listening to this? I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
We've pretty much given the book away.
And
Awesome.
I suppose, and that's the thing. The thing I've left out are the things that I don't think are essential. For example, there's a lot of salespeople out there who don't do true prospecting. And so I wanted to write a book that was applicable for every salesperson. And
Yeah.
so there are areas of detail I've not got into. I mean, negotiation, I do touch, there is a chapter on negotiating in the book, but you could write a book or a series of books on negotiation.
So you kind of nodded towards it. It's not a specialist book on that. There's specialist trainers who just do prospecting. People just talk about cold calls all day.
Completely.
You
Yeah.
know, on LinkedIn,
So,
they argue about openers
yeah.
all day.
So what I try and do there is
Yeah.
I share a principle because I don't share scripts. I share a principle and I
Yeah.
share an example or a process of how to put that principle into action. I also point out there are lots of other ways you can apply these principles, but if you understand the principle, you then don't break it, or you identify something that you might try and go, ooh, that doesn't fit for me because, or, oh, I can see why that would work because you pin things back to the principle. It's the why that sits behind stuff. Good old Simon Sinek, start with why type stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, there is one thing I haven't asked you that I do want to ask, which
Yep.
is where do people, well, get in touch with you, or where do they get hold of this?
Okay. Best place for people to get in touch with me is always LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. So by all means, shoot me a connection request and drop me a message on there, and we're happy to have a conversation. In terms of getting hold of the book, if they go to greatersales.com/how to sell, That gives you access to the book once it's released, but before it's released, it gives you access to pre-launch bonuses and a massive launch day deal for those people who get there ahead of time too.
Oh, you tease. I'm not even going to ask you what they are because
No,
you probably wouldn't tell me, would you?
top secret. Sign up, Fred. Go to greatersales.com/how to sell. Pop your email address in, and then you'll know.
You're a pro. You dropped that in twice. And we are going to drop it into the show notes anyway, so
Thank you.
it's easy to click. But look, awesome. Thanks for coming on and sharing. You've given us a ton of stuff that's in there, which I knew you would, to be fair. You know, we both want to share it. We want to put stuff out there. We want to kind of help salespeople get up to date and better. So, mate, thank you so much for coming along and sharing so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the collaborative selling scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.